Football Fan Show. Joined as usual by my co-host Carlos. We saw two matches yesterday. They were crazy, but we're going to talk through them anyway. So let's just to give you some context as well. I'm an Arsenal supporter and Carlos is a Fulham supporter. We would have loved to have done watch-alongs, but unfortunately we couldn't. So let's firstly talk through Fulham Aston Villa. So talk us through what you made of that game. You were at home, Fulham were at home, had a good start to the season. Well, obviously, not fantastic, but they showed a bit of bite in the second game. Here we are, third game, and 3-0. It shocked me what happened with your defense and stuff. But talk me through this. Talk everyone through what you thought of the game.
The sad thing about this, Malcolm, is that you don't get many easier games in the Premier League than Aston Villa at home.
Yeah.
If you're going to win a game, if you're going to collect points, it's got to be against these teams when you're playing at home. Because if you don't collect against Villa, then who are you going to collect against?
It's a 6-pointer.
Already, of course. Now, let me just tell you that against Arsenal, we conceded in the 6th minute.
Yeah.
Against Leeds in our second match, we conceded in the 8th minute.
Wow.
And against Villa yesterday, we conceded in the 3rd minute.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So
I've literally walked out the door, came back in.
Yeah. When you're conceding so early, it conditions matches. Your heads drop as well, because when it happens over and over again, another startling fact is that I think I should work it out, but I think that Fulham have not been behind a total of something like 17 minutes.
Wow.
In the 3 matches. If you add the 3 matches together, we've not been behind a total of about 17 minutes. If it's not 17, it's very close to that figure.
Wow.
As you said, our defense is a shambles. Now, we've known this for a long time. We've known this even when we were in the Championship. So when we got promoted, myself and my fellow Fulham supporters, Vartan being one of them, were discussing that we needed to strengthen at the back. Have we done so? No. So what do you expect? A team that struggles against Championship sides is going to not only struggle, but it's going to get punished when it plays in the Premier League. Now, some of the goals we're giving away, opponents are having free shots inside the penalty area.
Yeah.
I mean, forget the bad clearance that only went half a yard by Tim Ream to give Arsenal the first goal. Forget that. That is an individual error, and it doesn't always happen. But there is something wrong with your team as a defensive unit when players keep having free shots inside the penalty area. Now, it's not just the defense, it's also our central midfield. I don't blame Scott Parker for not having the right players available. It's not his fault. But I do blame him when he puts Tom Cairney in central midfield, because he's not a central midfielder. He cannot win the ball back. He's not defensive enough. You miss out on his attacking qualities by placing him so far back. And you also suffer the consequences of a player who cannot tackle in a position where you do need to tackle. So not only is our defense bad, but also the opponents seem to have an open road towards our defense. So, you put these things together, because on the ball and attacking, I didn't think we did badly. Okay, we didn't score, but, we had a few chances. We moved the ball around crisply. I thought we did a good job on the ball. But there are 2 phases to the game, when you have the ball and when you don't have it. And when one of those phases doesn't work, you're in serious trouble.
Yeah. So a few things to kind of go back with you about. So you did have in the back of the net, but we talked about it offline about the VAR. It's a tough one. I personally, obviously, as a neutral, thought, "Oh, what's going on here?" But you said to me that you thought it was a fair decision, right?
Yes, more or less. If Mitrovic was deemed to have pushed, I don't know who the defender was, in fact. But the fact that he pushed the player, it constitutes a foul in itself. But also the player on the ground was the reason why Bobby de Cordova-Reid was not offside. So bearing that in mind, it would have been fair. Now, what I would ask, and with this, we will maybe ease into our next game, or maybe bring this subject up later.
Yeah.
I wonder if this had been another team, if that foul would have been called up.
Yeah. 100%. We're going to talk about that.
Because I don't care what referees say, they say they're always neutral. But I do think that, well, Mourinho said it over the weekend.
Yeah.
Big teams get preferential treatment.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's easier to blow up and cancel out a goal in a situation like that. For a small team than it is for a big team.
Yeah. I wonder as well, I know we're going off slightly, but if the crowd was there as well, if they'd be that brave as well. I mean, the crowd obviously, we know it plays a part in everything, because I don't think, honestly, these kind of results would be happening if your crowd was there. If your home crowd was there, you had, 90% of the crowd attendance there. I don't think you'll get beaten 3-0. I think your team would have G'd you on. You may have got a draw, but I'm not sure you would have lost it in such a terrible way.
There are too many footballing weaknesses, as far as I can see, for us not to lose these matches. I think that regardless of there being a crowd or not, we would have got pummeled. And it's simply because there are so many things wrong with the team. Now, Scott Parker knows this. But the problem is, when you have someone as director of football who is not qualified for the job, and I'm referring to the owner's son. Now, they own, the Khans own what has been, I don't know what the situation is now, but for years it has been the worst American football team in the league, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah.
Now, when you are consistently the worst, there must be a reason for that. That's why when they took over at Fulham, I was praying that a miracle would happen. Because if they can't get it right in their American football team, why should they get it right in a sport that they understand less?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's for them, it's all about business. Even the whole thing, the whole hoo-ha, obviously never happened. Wembley Stadium. I mean, that's purely a business transaction. That's nothing to do with sport. And I think that's the way he is. I don't think he particularly likes sport, does he? He doesn't attend your games, does he?
No, not really. Very, very occasionally is he there, Zahid Khan. Now, what I would say is that as a business, it's not bad financially to get promoted, relegated, promoted, and relegated, which is what's going to happen when we go down at the end of the season, because you get 1 year's Premiership money, Premier League money, and then you get your parachute payment.
Yeah.
Then you get another year's Premier League money, and then you get another parachute payment. So financially, it's great.
Yeah.
So who's to say that they're not happy with this situation?
It's probably true, though. They're probably clinking champagne and everything. And the thing about it, which for me seems clear, is that you'll probably come back up straight away when you go down, if you do go down. You are looking like a team, a championship team, but you have got some fight. Going forward, you're amazing. And going at the defense, let's talk about the defense for a minute. So we talked about yesterday offline as well that your guy, is it Marlon? I can't remember his name. He failed his medical.
Yeah.
So he's not coming, and you obviously said he obviously was a bit of a question mark anyway. And you're looking at Tottenham's guy to show up your defense. I mean,
One
is
Foyt.
yeah, is he gonna make a difference? Well, no.
I think you and me would make a difference.
Maybe
It's
for
that
20
bad.
minutes.
It's that bad that I don't care who comes in.
Right, okay.
Okay, because whoever comes in is going to do a better job. Now, all credit to Scott Parker because he is trying. Okay, he's made bad decisions, in my opinion. For instance, last week when he played Adoy at left-sided centre-back when Tim Ream was out. Um, Yesterday, he tried a three-man defence
Yeah.
with Adoy, Hector, and Ream, who was back, and Tete at right back, Brian at left back. So he's trying different formulas. But do you know something? What I would do is perhaps put some of my better defensive midfielders in central defence, because they can do no worse than the guys who are there right now. We've got Kevin McDonald, who's not getting a game. He's big, strong. He is a holding midfield player. I would trust him more at centre back. I would trust Mario Lemina more in central defence. Now, it might seem like a desperate measure, but these are desperate times.
Yeah.
So I think you've got to at least look into maybe one of these players fitting in to defence to try to shore things up.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think Adoy, like you said, he's a scapegoat, but in this case, unfortunately, rightly so, he was horrendous. He didn't have a clue what was going on. His awareness was 10 times worse. He made David Luiz look like the most rock solid defender in the country. He was absolutely shocking. And that's unfortunately why he needs to be benched. But I don't know.
Look at just before we end with Fulham. Look at Hector. Hector came in to strengthen our defence. He's only been here since January.
Yeah.
And he had a shocking game yesterday.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the first time he's had a shocking game. So what worries me is that we will probably, before October the 5th, bring in a central defender, one. We need more than one. We do need more than one. If you're going to play in the Premier League, you cannot play with some of the players that we have. Right now, I would say that 80% of our squad is made up of championship level players.
Yeah. No, I agree. And you know, it shows. It shows, you know, the games have shown really the chasm in quality. But looking at obviously the situation, you know, the foot of the table, Sheffield United, as we've talked about before, are struggling, and they don't look like they're going to make any moves away from there. But it's very early days. It's very early days. I still think you've still got a fighting chance. It's going to be difficult with the players you've got, but you still have a chance because there are other teams that are struggling and will struggle. So we'll see what happens. So let's talk about Arsenal, Liverpool, Arsenal at Liverpool, obviously at Anfield. So let's firstly get straight into it. Let's talk about this referee, because we had a chat, and I don't know what kind of refereeing school he went to, because it was an absolute shocker. But take on you as a neutral. What was your take on the matter?
Well, as you say, I'm a neutral. I'm a Fulham supporter, so it doesn't make any difference to me. No reason why I should side with one or another. But the fact is that I was watching this game and feeling very sorry for Arsenal. Sorry for you, because we were chatting through the game.
Yeah.
Because, and this is what surprises me, the media is making nothing of this.
No.
Sadio Mane elbows, I can't remember who he elbowed, but he elbowed an Arsenal player.
Kieran Tierney, I think it was.
Tierney, that's right, yeah. In the face, second minute. What does Craig Pawson do? Shows a yellow. He chickened out.
Yeah.
He looked at his watch. He said, second minute, Liverpool at Anfield. Okay, there's no crowd, but, you know, the pressure's still there. I'm not going to send this guy off.
No.
Now, when have you ever seen before that a player elbows someone in the face and did not get sent off? Have you ever seen that before?
Never, ever, ever.
I have even seen players who have been sent off for hitting someone's face when they're jumping, and obviously their arms are up because they're jumping, and they accidentally hit someone in the face. But Mane lunged into Tierney and stuck his elbow out at the same time. So that was the second minute. Everything else that happens after that cannot be taken seriously, because it's a farce of a game. It's a game that is conditioned in a way that it shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
And who scores the equalising goal? The guy who should have been having a shower.
Yeah. It was Mr. Mane.
I mean, Liverpool played well.
Yes.
I don't think, the media's purring over Liverpool's performance, from what I can gather.
Oh yeah. Oh,
But I must say that was not a Liverpool performance of last season. I thought it was worse than last
yes.
season. I thought defensively they looked poor.
Mm,
Something has happened, and I think that something is the fact that they're playing with a higher line
mm,
defense. They were caught out against Leeds, and they were caught out yesterday. Lacazette had 2 one-on-ones with the keeper.
mm.
So, they're purring about Liverpool's performance, but at 2-1, what would have happened in normal circumstances is that Lacazette would have made it 2-2 because he had 2 bites at the cherry. So you've got to put things in perspective and not only talk about the scoreline, which is what I think most journalists do anyway. They look at the scoreline and they reach their conclusions on that basis. You've got to delve a bit deeper and discuss what happened during the 90 minutes, how that result was achieved, and what maybe could have happened had things been slightly different.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing about it with the referee, which frustrated me, was that he wasn't consistent. I don't mind if a referee is throwing the red cards and yellow cards around to every single player on every single team, and he just doesn't care. We saw that in the FA Cup final. The guy there was quite hardcore about everything. He loved the red cards, yellow cards, whatever. But this guy was so top-sided to Liverpool. It was just horrible. And listen, social media ripped him to pieces. They were saying all kinds of stuff like he was in Liverpool's pocket and all the rest of it. And it just showed he just made it too obvious. Even if he did have that kind of feeling, he made it too obvious. I mean, the situation, like I said, about the Mane, then Bellerin got tackled, nothing happened. Bellerin tackled somebody, yellow card. It was just all over the place. It was just go, and it went on throughout. This is just one example. It just went on and on and
He
on.
was not applying the same criteria with his yellow card decisions.
Yeah, it
And
was
also,
free kicks as well.
free kicks, it was not the same. Aubameyang, 2 or 3 times on the break, was
Yeah,
fouled and
yeah,
he waved play on.
yeah.
And there was another incident that could have been a red card, which was Fabinho
Yes,
stepping, yeah, yeah,
on Willian. Yeah,
stepping on Willian, which I thought was borderline, but leaning more towards red than yellow.
yeah. What made it was annoying about that situation, the ref played on. It took Fabinho looking after his fellow Brazilian, kicking the ball out for the game to be stopped. The guy was on the floor. The referee just let it carry on. It was so bad. It was so bad.
Again, I've seen red cards for less than that.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, I would like to sit down with Mike Riley, who I believe is the
Yes.
referee's chief,
Yeah.
and sit down with him, watch the 90 minutes with him, a recorded 90 minutes, and say, okay, tell me and try to convince me that this referee had a good game.
Yeah.
And the trouble is, you see, you can have bad games. Of course you can. As a
Yeah.
referee, as a player, we have bad days.
Mm,
But what struck me yesterday was that all of his mistakes were in one direction and one direction only.
yeah.
They were they were aiding Liverpool.
Yeah.
I
100%.
don't know how that happened yesterday. I'm not going to say he was intentionally biased. I'm not going to get involved in that kind of argument. But what I'm saying is that his bad refereeing yesterday assisted Liverpool.
Yes. 100%. And I'm going to be interested to watch him carry on and see what other games he's like, because there's other people who are referees who you know what you're getting, but I've never seen, not in recent times, anyone so biased. There's referees who love themselves, but there's not many referees who are that biased. They're quite, like I said, they're quite consistent usually, even if it's wrong. So anyway, let's move on from this. So it's fun, and that's a small little thing as well, is that it's funny you said that about the pundits didn't say anything about it, but then the channel that was showing it put something on Instagram, cheekily put it on Instagram. What do you think of this? The Mane Kieran Tierney, and they freeze froze it. The actual straight arm in Tierney's face. It's a madness. Well, one thing as well, I think as well, would may have helped the situation, but I'm not saying I advocate this, is if Tierney had been rolling around and the players had obviously swarmed the referee, maybe would have looked at VAR. But again, he was already preset of what he was going to be like, so that's fair enough. But talking about the performance again, so we had a situation on the channel where Roy Keane was there, and he was saying about that Liverpool have been sloppy at times, and then Klopp, he had kind of heard a bit of it at the tail end of it, and he was kicking off at Roy Keane. This is a guy who won 3-1 at home, good result, and you're moaning at Roy Keane for saying it's sloppy. He said it was the perfect result. And like he said, I personally don't think Liverpool are the same as last year. So I don't get it.
No, they're not. They're not. So
Okay.
far, I mean, they might get into gear and get closer to what they were last season, which is going to be difficult because of the high standards of last year. But I think Klopp has made a huge mistake in pushing the defensive line forward.
Yeah.
It's made
True.
Liverpool vulnerable defensively. They were
Yeah.
lucky yesterday to get away with this result.
Yeah, 100%.
Regardless of whether Klopp thinks it was the perfect result, his decisions, which included playing that high defensive line, which was exposed by Leeds United,
Yeah.
could have allowed Lacazette to score 1 or 2 goals
Mm.
at 2-1,
Yes.
because the third goal came right at the end.
Mm.
So, he's got to ask questions about what he's doing. Now, we can't question Jurgen Klopp after what Liverpool did. He's won the European Cup, he's won the Premier League. But sometimes it's better not to try to change too much.
Mm.
The old saying, if it ain't broke, don't change it.
Yeah, no,
Something like
yeah,
something to that effect anyway.
yeah. No, you're right. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. No, it's absolutely right.
Yeah. Well, he's tried to tamper with the team,
Mm.
and I think he's made it worse, defensively at least. And unless he goes back to how they were playing last season, they're going to struggle because, okay, Lacazette yesterday couldn't finish, but what will happen when they play against a good counter-attacking team that can finish? In
No, it's,
normal circumstances, Arsenal would have scored 2 or 3 times yesterday, in normal circumstances, but Lacazette had a bad day. So, they've got to look at themselves and say, is this the way we want to play? Because we're conceding goals in every match. And remember that last season, especially in the first half of the season, it wasn't just difficult to score against Liverpool; it was difficult to get a shot
yeah,
against Liverpool.
yeah. I still think though that, and I appreciate you saying, and it's true. They shouldn't be changing things. That they look fitter than us, which surprised me because Arsenal have always been known to have very fit, very fast players. They look much fitter than us, especially even though Mane should have been sent off. He was spraying everything. Salah was there. Everybody was in there. I mean, Robertson scored. Obviously, well, it was 2-1. Fair enough, it wasn't the winning goal, but it was the goal that got them ahead. They all were getting involved. So it's interesting that they're in this situation where they look worse, but those around them, the teams you'd expect, obviously the Chelseas of the world, I wouldn't say the Arsenal necessarily, but the Man United, Man City, they're still that you still feel like Liverpool has still got a bit more than they have to win the league again, and that's frustrating because think about the Man Cities of old. Okay, Man United, they've been in free for a while. The Chelseas of old as well. They would be challenging and making sure that Liverpool feel the heat, but I don't feel that that's the situation at the moment.
No, especially with Manchester City struggling so much in defence.
I mean, 5-2, that's crazy.
Yeah, and they were terrible in defence. Now, what I can't understand is how a club that has so much money,
Mm,
with a great manager such as Pep Guardiola, can allow itself to get into this situation. Now, we've known for years that they've not strengthened adequately at the
mm,
back,
mm.
but time has passed and they've done nothing about it. And when they sign players for the defense, I think they signed the wrong players,
Yeah,
because Guardiola, and I do like him very much as a manager, but he looks more at how a player plays the ball out than how he defends.
yeah,
Nathan Ake, I think, is better playing the ball out than he is at defending.
Mm.
And as for Eric Garcia, who has been getting a chance at Manchester City and has been capped by Spain on the back of having played for Manchester City,
Oh,
also
right.
because Spain are looking for a central defender. They're struggling there.
Mm.
And I don't think he's up to it. I
Mm.
think he's just a kid who's very green. He's got to mature. And I don't think he's ready to play for Manchester City. I thought that when he had his debut, even though he was praised.
Mm.
And I thought that obviously when he was capped by Spain. I just thought it was a rushed decision to give him his first cap so quickly. Um, Now they've signed, is it Ruben Diaz from Benfica?
Yeah. And
Um,
Otamendi's on his way, isn't he? Otamendi's on his way, isn't he?
yeah, good player, good defender. But
Mm.
what I'm wondering is, will that be enough? They've got Laporte,
Yeah.
who's good, but Laporte was on the bench the other day.
Yeah.
So if you've got your best defender when you're struggling in defence and you've got your best defender on the bench, you deserve to get thrashed.
Yeah, no, it's a big situation that they need to really look at. I mean, and Mendy, I mean, all of them really were poor, but Mendy has obviously was the scapegoat. He was poor. He was obviously responsible for penalties and stuff like that. Kyle Walker is very good at bombing forward. He's shocking at defending. He always has been. I'm surprised that he did okay for a bit at City, but he's shown really, he's really been exposed. Obviously, we talked about Nathan Ake and Garcia. So they definitely need a lot of work to be done. But like you said, I am shocked that they haven't responded so quick enough. And what does that come down to? Is that down to Pep? Was it down to director of football? Who's to blame for all this madness?
I think it's a combination of the two,
Yeah.
um, because Pep does have lots of input. I don't believe that Manchester City sign any players without Pep's approval.
Mm.
So I think they sit down, they get together, they put their heads together, and they discuss the situation and decide who they're going to target.
Mm.
So I blame them all. In a
Right.
big institution like Manchester City, with all the money they have, if they get it wrong, that's a big mistake. It's one thing to get it wrong when you're Wigan Athletic and you haven't got that much money,
Mm.
but it's a completely different kettle of fish when you are Manchester City and you can afford any player in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, the left back position, Mendy made it look like the M1. Everyone was bombing down it. No trouble whatsoever. And also, where I think Manchester City were very naive was that Leicester under Brendan Rodgers like to have the ball, keep possession, play in the opponent's half. I think that is not the style that suits Leicester City the best.
Mm.
Leicester City are still a brilliant counter-attacking team.
Yeah.
And Brendan Rodgers does not want them to play that way. Now, with Manchester City dominating possession the way they always do,
Yeah.
Leicester had no choice but to play counter-attacking football. And look what they did to Manchester City's defence
Yeah.
by counter-attacking.
Yeah. Oh,
That
100%.
should teach Manchester City a lesson, but it should also teach Brendan Rodgers a lesson, I think.
Yeah, and Leicester City have always been thereabouts, but with under Brendan Rodgers and just in general, Leicester have fast starts and then peter out as we saw, true to form this season just gone. And the problem is for Brendan Rodgers, if he doesn't get a grip and act like he said and realise that they are a counter-attacking team, they're going to miss out on top four again because they've definitely got the capability to get top four. The other teams who are kind of around the Wolves and obviously Sheffield United are not there now. But we know that Leicester City have got a strong enough side to do some damage. Tielemans is a brilliant player. Obviously we know about Vardy for a guy his age. He's doing amazing. Still kept himself in trim, and the team goes on. But they've
And
definitely could.
Madison, who's hardly
Madison,
getting a game,
yeah,
but what a player, fabulous player. And what a goal he scored.
yeah,
Terrific,
yeah,
terrific. He's got to play more often and he's got to play the full 90 minutes. Fitness allowing, obviously.
yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that all develops. But we'll stop there. Thank you so much as always, Carlos. It's been great talking about our games yesterday and obviously Man City. So we'd love to hear your thoughts on the matter. Do you think that what we're talking about was clear, and really do you agree with it? Do you agree that Fulham are going to struggle and maybe go down even at this stage on the third game? 38 games to go, 35 rather, and we're already talking about relegation. It's crazy. And what do you think about the refereeing at Liverpool and Man City? What do they need to do to change? Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And any comments would be most welcome. Thank you very much.